Alright guys, Kremp again. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Shotzzy telling all as to what is going on behind the scenes right now in Rostermania and some big development at that. Simp, JoeDeceives, some of the key players in this roster market, especially where Sib, formerly it seems of Cloud9, was trying to get involved as well. He's had some conversations to try and get on those teams, but in many cases he's been totally ghosted by the players that he's been reaching out to. What next therefore in this roster cycle? Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Firstly, Major Maniac. Quite the statement from him. I thought it was a pretty good one, actually. We saw that he did his official retirement announcement just, well, we talked about it in yesterday's video, and Major Maniac says, looking to become a full-time coach within the CDL for next season while continuing to pursue my degree in project management. So I thought he would probably look to become a coach. I think he could be a phenomenal coach, Major Maniac, but I really do quite like what he says in the second sentence. It's pretty aggressive. It's time that we announce the bad from management to the coaching staff. If your organization wants a shot at winning a tournament and not just be there to participate, contact me either on DM or email in bio. So, you know, it makes a pretty compelling statement, right? It's like, yeah, loads of these teams, your management are terrible, your coaches are terrible, and you're not winning anything. So bring me in and we're going to change that. And, you know, I respect, you know, the confidence that he's coming in with and saying, look, if you want to win, bang my line. And, you know, I can see the logic behind it, right? So, and I think this is probably fair. As we've said for many years in the CDL, when the CDL first came around, for the first 2 seasons, 2 to 3 seasons maybe, there was lots of opportunities for the players that were retiring and stepping away at the time. I mean, in MW19, it was almost hilarious how players were getting, you know, substitute contracts that hadn't even played the game. I mean, you know, Gunjar and Embos were the subs for OpTic Gaming. You had Nick Maniac Kirshner, substitute for Florida Mutineers, right? It was a crazy time. But then also, that was really the first year where every team had a coach, and they at least had one coach. So there were plenty of players who had just retired who kind of came in at the perfect time to be like, okay, yeah, great, I will, you know, I'll coach. You know, Joey Nubsy was a coach the first year. Maybe he did an okay job, but you know what I'm saying, right? It was a weird time for COD. Nowadays, a few years down the line, there are far more players that have retired over the last few years with maybe a broader skill set than there was at the time. So potentially Major Maniac, we don't know if he's going to be a good coach or not, but I think there is an argument to say that, you know, he could maybe do a better job, has more experience than some of the coaches that we have around the league at the moment. Couple of dramas on this actually I thought was interesting. So there was a tweet that came out, a Halo pro. Now they're talking about Legend here, I think, really, because Legends said he's making it very clear that he's going to try and come over from Halo. Is there interest there? I think there certainly should be, but there's some debate on whether that is fair, right? A Halo player, talented, but never played Respawn COD, is going to come over and get a spot ahead of Challengers players that have. So, you know, is it Friendship League, whatever, you know, Challengers players getting ignored, but I definitely see the logic in doing this. Like, look, I'll be honest, if I was a team and I'm looking for some serious upside, I'm getting Legend over getting a Challengers player that I kind of know what they're capable of, just because maybe Legend is the next Shotzzy. And yeah, maybe he's not, right? It's plausible that he's not, but I would still prefer to take that risk. Now, that's my opinion. JP says, imagine going back in time and telling Shotzzy he needed to spend time in Challengers during MW19 when he ended up being miles ahead in that game. Yeah, the start of the year, Shotzzy was very questionable, but over time, relatively quickly, he picked it up, and towards the end of the year, he was incredibly good and won the MVP of that season, right? So a player of Shotzzy's caliber, yeah, they don't need to play Challengers to get up to speed. They're better off coming to the Pro League straight away, and yeah, they're going to be behind the curve, but give them a few months and they're going to figure out faster in the Pro League than they would down in Challengers. So it's a big debate. Obviously, you know, C was in the replies. You had different opinions in the replies here. So I think the community is relatively split on opinions on this, which I think is pretty interesting to see. But another clip I wanted to share for you guys as we talk about this Shotzzy stuff was this here from Kenny. He actually revealed a pretty crazy story, and I want your guys' speculation on which player do you think this was. So Kenny reveals that a couple of years ago, presumably this is in the CDL era, because Shotzzy, actually, we'll see in a second, he talks about this and kind of implies that it's at least relatively recent, so probably over the last few years. You know, I would say maybe since Cold War, this is possible. And he also is kind of implying that the team was terrible, so that's why they were, you know, coming to blows, as it were. Anyway, Kenny's talking about a moment he had with a teammate where they nearly came to blows, let's say. But everyone's trying to figure out who he's talking about here and which player this might potentially be. Kenny was even in the replies to this, and Nabil was there as well. It was me, so presumably we can count a Nabil out of the conversation, although they teamed rather a while ago. So I'll share this clip and then we'll talk about who it might be.
Yeah, question. This is a funny thing. I'm not gonna tell y'all the player, but this happened one time. Okay, let's just say you're talking to somebody, right? And maybe it's not even like a heated argument, but it's like a discussion where y'all disagreeing. And the motherfucker is like packing their shit, right? And like after you say something, they go, "What's up?" To me, where I'm from, "What's up" is like, all right, pull your pants up, what's up? We gotta throw them motherfuckers. It's like, what's up? You know what I mean? Fight, right? Okay. Because when I responded, I'm like, what's up? I dropped my backpack. I'm like, listen, we asked. Now, listen, don't even start assuming. It was not this year. So that was my boy. But I'm like, what the we asked, so let's get, like, if we gonna do anything, we gonna have to fight this shit out. Maybe we pull up front tomorrow. What's up? What the fuck? Right? Okay, I'm not faded for that, right? Okay. Because in the moment, motherfuckers made it look like I was that angry black dude. You know what I mean? Like, Ken, go home, Ken. Get out of here. I'm the fuck. Like, am I tweaking? Was I tweaking? Running fade out the script is crazy. I mean, bro, listen. Hey, this is how I see it, chat. If we can't win a map, right? We're literally not winning anything. If we can't sit there and yell at each other, argue, we not a team. Because if we lose every map in scrims and nobody got nothing to say, nobody mad, at this point, let's just throw hands. That's passion. We just lost every map. Show me you care. Fuck it. Throw your monitor at me. You know what I mean? Something. Kick my PC. Unplug my shit. Show me you care. You know what I mean? We might pull up the next day frying. We dead ass might pull the next day. It's all hell loose. We are shitting. Am I tweaking for that? Okay, there's only if like you don't talk, like you're not saying nothing. We got nothing to say. We just lost every map. We lost 250, 100 every map. No, we not mad. Because this is how I see it. If we're not mad, we're accepting the fact that they're better than us. And to me, that's just not how I grow. I'm not accepting that. That ain't no way. I'm not talking about OpTic. Well, I would say our team, like last year, Black Ops 6, it got to that point where like Ant said, it was only me and him talking for majority of the time. And it just felt like it was chalk. That's all. So then it became more heated because it's like, it's me and Ant just going at each other. It's like, because we don't, I mean, you know what I mean?
So these are Kenny's teams over the last few years, and I'm assuming that it's not going back to the Team Caliber days or the 100 Thieves days. It's got to be more recent than that. And, well, presumably you'd think it's maybe since 2021. I guess it's not impossible that it could have been in the 2020 season, but I tend to feel like this feels like it's a bit more recent. Now, Kenny said that it wasn't the most recent year, right? It wasn't this year with OpTic. And Shotzzy also said that it wasn't any of the OpTic guys, and it wasn't Envoy. So most people have heard that and thought maybe it could be Envoy, but apparently it wasn't Envoy, it wasn't any of the OpTic guys, and I think Shotzzy said, we'll see in a second, but I think he said that it's someone that you wouldn't necessarily expect. So, well, I guess just go through it, right? Some people said Don, could it be Don from like the Cold War team or whatever, like when he was on that, like the Thieves roster. Obviously, these are just like their online or their offline results, but Don was around that camp at the time that season. They didn't play a LAN together because he got dropped earlier in the year. It was chaos, right? So it could have been that maybe. Then, you know, could it have been Octane? I don't know. Feels a little bit less likely. But who else could it have been, right? If it wasn't any of the OpTic guys, then it's got to be maybe Drazah. But it's obviously a teammate. So could it have been a Slasher or a John maybe from that season, or a TJ Halley maybe? Could it have been a TJ Halley? I don't know. Intrigued to your thoughts on that in the comments below. There was also a bit of talk because this got quote tweeted by Gunless, who has never teamed with Kenny, so it can't be him. But he's kind of saying that, well, Kenny has an interesting perspective because he's like, look, I actually want you to not fight me, but like I want you to have the passion, right? Like I want you to bring that energy, and that's almost a good thing. Gunless is kind of saying that in his day when he was passionate, let's say, to a degree where he would, let's say, come to blows with teammates on occasions, probably not physically, but you know what I'm saying, then for him, he said that was considered to be toxic, but when somebody else does it, it's respectable. So I don't condone my past actions, but, you know, he talks about a couple of things. Thought that was pretty interesting to hear both sides of the discussion. But let's talk about some of the drama. This is what Sib had to say on stream, and, well, I thought it was kind of remarkable. He had sent a message, and look, I respect it, right? Absolutely, why not? But Sib, currently he's still on Cloud9. Not 100% sure what the contractual situation there is, what could be next for him, but it looks like he obviously was trying to consider some other options, and given that FaZe were an option, and we literally mentioned it earlier today with Rencor now not getting sold by Miami, they're going to need potentially a slaying flex player, and Sib could be a perfect fit in that category. But maybe they don't want to play with him, they think he could be a problematic teammate or whatever the case is, and as a result, Sib, it seems, got totally blanked by Simp in this discussion, and JoeDeceives, a very similar story.
I don't regret asking. I mean, I asked JoeDeceives. JoeDeceives didn't respond. I mean, I asked Simp. Simp didn't respond. I think it just adds fuel to the fire. You know what I mean? For whatever reason, they want a team, and I respect it. But if I ever play against them, I'm gonna have that chip on my shoulder and prove to them I fucking made a mistake.
Do I think Sib could actually be a valuable asset to both of those teams potentially? Yeah, I think I do. But there is also the argument that he didn't have a great season, and there are questions about Sib and being a teammate and stuff like this. So I think it's very interesting, though, to hear that he just puts it out there, right? He doesn't wait until after Rostermania is settled, until after he's got a new team to reveal what's going on. He just straight up says, I mean, he's literally got his Cloud9 chair in the background. And he's like, yeah, I was hitting up Simp and JoeDeceives to see if they could potentially sign me. So, I don't know, I thought it was pretty funny. But then he says it adds fuel to the fire, right? So he's locked in now, right? He's bringing the serious energy. Now, CleanX is in the replies to this. So CleanX said, it's not just me then that can't get a reply from Joe. So this is pretty interesting because we also know that there is consideration at Toronto to get aBeZy in instead. And, would CleanX like to stay at Toronto? If they're forming a team of JoeDeceives, Kenny, Drazah, that's got to be one of CleanX's best options on the SMG there. But maybe they want aBeZy, and maybe JoeDeceives isn't going to say anything to CleanX until that situation is resolved. So fascinated to hear your thoughts on that in the comments. The other thing that was mentioned was the Cellium thing. This isn't like an official number or rumor or anything really, but it was just Benjay said that he had to guess. Cellium's offer from Falcons is going to be something like 400 to 500k. We know that Thieves are trying to lock in as well. Maybe they've not got the bread to compete with that. And as a result, if you're Cellium or if you're Cellium's agent, it's a conversation to have, isn't it? To try and see if you can get a bit more money out there. But this is what Shotzzy had to say. He went through a few things on stream, discussing top to bottom, really, the way the league is right now. This is what he had to say. We saw earlier today that FaZe, he signed somebody, but we're not sure who yet. He also mentioned in quite some detail the importance of not burning bridges, right? Because Drazah and Scrap will be a phenomenal duo, would be a phenomenal duo, but it's probably never going to happen because of the drama that we know about. He thinks players should take the crazy contract over anything else. So, in his opinion, if Falcons are offering you a crazy bag, go take the bag rather than taking less to go to a different team, because I guess you're never sure on what results are actually going to be happening, and maybe that bag isn't going to last forever. He talks about 04, rating him very highly, and says that he's maybe even similar to how Huke was relatively recently. Confirms that they took some pay cuts, which was, I think, talked about quite a while ago. He also mentions how Thieves, the report was that management wanted to make a change, the players didn't. Look, if Scrap and HyDra were absolutely adamant that we're not dropping Ghosty at any cost, then it wouldn't happen, right? Like, that's just how it is, in my opinion anyway. Yeah, the management, the coaching staff may suggest something, but if Scrap and HyDra were vehemently denying it and saying, no, we're not happy about this at all, then I think that it wouldn't have happened, but it has happened. So I think that probably tells you something. That's my opinion, but intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Only way he'd ever leave OpTic is if he were offered millions, which he doesn't think is going to happen in his opinion. Says that Kenny wasn't the OpTic guys and it wasn't Envoy. And then he says he approaches it like a business when it comes to dropping players. Went on to say that if he got dropped, he'd see it like they think they're better with somebody else, and got to show them that they won't be. Simple as that. So, yeah, I don't know. The Warlords maybe cooking up something special. There was also another comment apparently that he made right towards the end, where he said that there is a possibility here in this Rostermania that something absolutely insane happens, but then he didn't want to kind of, let's say, expand on what that might have been. So I'll just leave you guys with that to close out the day. So very much interested to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.